Welcome to the Power of Care podcast with host Brianna Dance. On this show, we will take an in-depth look into personal and professional resilience on several different levels. This is a space for people who are trying to navigate the ups and downs of life successfully. Be sure to follow on Instagram at Power of Care Podcast and on YouTube at Power of Care_.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Power of Care podcast. Today, y'all, I have an amazing guest. Somebody who I've been friends with in my head on Instagram. This is Danielle Williams Eke. And she, y'all, let me run her resume real quick. This is only a little bit. She's been in the fashion industry for over 15 years. Fashion designer, she's a stylist, consultant, and advocate for size inclusivity and diversity in the fashion industry. She is the podcast host of Extended Combos. She's a mentor and business owner. She was a design director for 11 Honore, featured in Essence, Harper's Bazaar, Teen Vogue, Fashion Magazine, The Root, BET, Nylon, and so much more. So let's welcome Danielle to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Excited to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. I found you on Instagram years ago, and I was like, wow, this is quality, like, fashion that I've been looking for. And so, fun fact, you are from Maryland, right?
I am, yes.
You're a DMV girl.
I am.
So that was another connection that I loved. I was like, oh my gosh, she's a curvy girl. She's in fashion, and she's, like, advocating and creating beautiful pieces.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. And so, how did you even land into the fashion industry? Where did this start?
So I'll say the start was probably around high school.
Okay.
We had this fashion club called Fashion X, and essentially we were charged with creating designs from scratch or like repurposing clothes to create something new. And so I was in it my junior year. Senior year, I got a little bit more involved and kind of helped lead it. And from that, they gave me and another student a scholarship, and I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna go to school for fashion.
Wow.
My parents weren't initially on board with this, just because at the time, I don't think creative careers were what they are now. Like, they were a little like, I don't know that you can make any money from this.
Right.
But credit to them, they really did support me. They said, all right, if you want to do it, then like, let's go do it.
Wow.
And so from there, I went to school in Miami, Miami International University of Art and Design. Got my undergrad degree there, interned while I was there, did for both like merchandising and design, volunteered at a lot of fashion shows, Miami Fashion Week. So I definitely was like, okay, if I'm gonna do it, I gotta like put in the work and kind of go over time in order to do it. So that was kind of what got me into the industry. But I will say, really, I give a lot of credit to my grandmother. She was a shopper.
Yes,
we would always just go shopping, and she's the kind of shopper like, you can't just get a top, you gotta get like the pants to go with it. She was like, you gotta put the look together. And so a lot of times we would go together, and in the moment I'm like, we were out for hours. Like, we would just be out for so long.
Now, as a kid, was that exciting for you, or you were like kind of ready to go home?
I think a little bit of both.
Okay.
A little bit. There was definitely like, all right, mama, like, let's go. Like, we've been out for a long time, and we would just spend hours in Macy's. Like, she loved Macy's. Just like getting these looks together. But eventually, I became a shopper, and my sisters became shoppers. And I think from that, especially just being a plus size woman, I was kind of always been curvy. And I just noticed how hard it was to find, like, shopping in the women's section like I'm like a 60-year-old woman.
Girl, let me tell you, I feel so seen right now because, as you can see, I'm a curvy girl as well. And Dress Barn was it around here? I think Deb, I don't know if it was something else. But a lot of times we were wearing three-piece suits.
Yeah.
And we were 10 years old.
Like, where are you going right now?
Where are we going?
Right. So I think that's where a lot of my connection to fashion started. So I was really excited to go down that route in college and follow it through.
Wow. Okay, thank you for that. So let's go to, what is your go-to hairstyle, clothing item, accessory or shoes? Like what's something that you always grab in the morning?
I love a little slick back pony. I just think it's chic and easy.
Yeah.
My go-to, I do like a classic blazer.
Yeah.
Black blazer, I feel like wear with leggings or jeans or skirt, like that's kind of one of the pieces that I think everybody should have in their wardrobe. But I think because it had always been so hard for me to just find good pieces, I did rely a lot on accessorizing. So I do like jewelry and like chains.
Oh yeah, she's dripping, y'all. Hopefully you can see it.
I like chains and shoes. Like I love sneakers. Give me a sneaker.
Sneaker girl.
I'm very much a sneaker girl. I'll throw in a heel or a boot every now and then, but I'm like, how can I wear sneakers with this?
Right.
Where I'm going. So yeah, definitely lean into accessorizing because I feel like you can take a very classic look, like a pair of jeans, a white shirt, and you can accessorize it and make it something unique and personal.
Yeah.
And everybody can kind of put their own twist on it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, how would you describe your style in 3 words? Like what comes, you know how you hear like, oh, I'm boho, I'm this. How would you, is it classic? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I would definitely say classic. I used to say minimalist, but I've gotten into some fun things these days.
Okay, so some color.
I am playing with color more than I probably have in the past, but I would say classic. Like I like classic silhouettes. Laid back. Like I don't like to look like I put a lot of time into an outfit.
Also effortless.
Exactly.
Ooh,
yeah.
yes.
Like just like don't let the clothes wear you. Like just wear the clothes.
Yeah.
And I would say modern. I do like to stay up on trends. So like there is this classic where it's like your tried and true denim, but like what's the new modern fit or cut of denim that like keeps your wardrobe not feeling stale.
Can we talk about denim really quickly because the generations are battling?
Yeah.
We have Gen Z, we have millennial, and they're saying that Gen Z is saying millennials can't dress, skinny jeans are out. What's your take, Danielle, on this?
You know what? And I think skinny jeans are out. For now.
For now.
Not to say they won't ever come back because we know fashion is cyclical.
Yeah.
But I know for me, I have a couple of pair. I have not put them on. I actually have put them on like, oh, do I want to wear these? And then I'm like, no, I'm taking them off. This is not the vibe right now. So I have been searching for like good wide legs, more relaxed, and as you know, just denim in general for plus and curvy women is difficult, and especially these more modern cuts. It's been very difficult, but I will say shout out to Eloquy. They just did a really big launch of like some really cool modern fits for plus that I've really loved. So it's exciting. I think things are catching up in that sense.
Yeah, so we got to go back to, you left Miami where you were interning, you were working hard.
I graduated from school in Miami. And then I went to New York and interned for this brand designer called Brian Reyes. He's not around anymore, but at the time he was kind of like this next up and coming Zach Posen. So he would do Fashion Week, and so I interned and worked with him and his assistant designer, and that was a really awesome experience, like in the heart of New York. Like the office was like this loft in Soho, running around day and night to pattern makers and fabric stores, and it was like boot camp, but I just loved every bit of like literally trucking through the snow of like bolts of fabric to take it back to the office. But it's like that grit is kind of what helped me build and really grow in fashion. So that was a great experience. We did Fashion Week. Like I just remember being backstage after the show. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. An experience that I will never forget. But after I interned and then I freelanced with them for a little bit, but kind of after the season, they no longer needed me. And so I was like, okay, well, let me see if I can find something full time in New York City. So I was looking, I was like working at like Old Navy part-time. And like nothing was coming to me, and I was like, dang, like I feel like I should be able to get some sort of job, but
all the experience that you were having.
But nothing was happening, and New York's expensive. My parents were like, okay, girl, time to come home. So I ended up having to come back to Maryland. And so naturally went into the retail route. And that's where I started working at Torrid as an assistant manager. And so I was assistant manager, eventually got promoted to a store manager, and then they posted internally that they were looking for an assistant designer. And so because I was already in the company, I had my DM reach out to HR, and they hired me, and I moved to California.
Oh my God. So you worked at Torrid, literally, you said associate?
Assistant manager.
Manager. Then you leveled up to store.
Yep.
And then you had this opportunity.
Yep.
And you took it.
Yes.
And it worked.
It did. It's like, let's go. Like, no questions asked. Like, and I am a woman of faith, and I just know that God's divine timing is just amazing. And I think he brought me back to Maryland for a little bit for reasons like just to spend time with my grandmother before she passed and be with family. But there was definitely that next season. He was like, all right, time to go.
Time to go.
Yep. And ushered me into that.
And you moved to California.
I did.
So when you got to California, what was that like? What was being that designer like for you?
So I got to California, I didn't know anybody.
Oh, wow.
I was essentially moving by myself.
Yeah.
And I was an assistant designer, so I was kind of like helping the other designers. So, didn't have my own category, but it was like filing Pantone chips or helping create trim boards. But I was like, this is what I want. Like, this is what I went to school for. I'm getting paid to do this.
Yep.
I'm in this new space, this new city. And again, it was one of those moments that just elevates you. Like, you're forced to grow. You're forced to become an adult. And like, okay, we're doing this. And so really, and when I came into Torrid, at the time they had just recently got a new CEO. They were really shifting the business model. And again, I think I just came in at the right time because they started to grow, and I was able to ride that wave of their tremendous growth over those couple of years. And I just was able to move up from an assistant designer, associate designer, and before I left there, I was a design manager, really managing the design team, working under the design director, having worked in all categories, working with cross-functionally with a lot of people. And so it was what really kind of helped me grow and really helped me understand the business of fashion. I think a lot of times when you're not in the industry, it is this pretty glamorous thing, but at the end of the day, you're there to make money, and that is really what you are evaluated on. And we can get into that piece of it.
Because it is glamorous to us, the consumer. We're like, oh my God, look at Danielle killing it. But we don't know the conversations. We don't know the pushback. We don't know the no's that you've encountered. So tell me maybe one or two times where you had to really overcome something that was challenging in the business.
Yeah, I think I'll speak first generally. I think within the industry, there's this term we just say designer burnout.
Oh, okay.
Because as a designer, you are expected season after season to create new. Create new product. It has to be good. It has to sell, because again, this is a business.
That's true.
And if there's a season where business is bad and things aren't selling, they're looking at you like, what are you going to do to change this? And so you're really only as good as your last delivery.
It's like an athlete. They think about
it. It really is. And so that constant stress of okay, what's next? You can celebrate this win, but you got to be thinking about what the next win is going to be, because you have to sustain this business and meet these goals. And I think the hardest part as a creative is that you also need that space to breathe and be still and like not create something in order to be able to go into a space to be able to create. And unfortunately, especially I think in corporate environments where it is like season after season after season, you don't always get that space. And so I know many of my past counterparts who have like taken leaves of absences or just like needed some mental health space to just breathe. And so I think that's like the general idea or understanding of kind of what designers go through on a day-to-day. But there's definitely been seasons for me that, or launches of collections that just did not go well. I remember at Torrid we did this insider collection, and the first season was not great, and it was supposed to be this more elevated kind of cool thing. The first season we designed did not sell that well, but because we thought it would keep going, we had already designed the second season before getting like selling back from the first one, and I was like, ugh, I hope the second one sells around. This is just going nowhere. And luckily that second one did do a lot better than the first, but it was really those moments of like, just keep going, like trust your gut, because there are definitely moments where you're like, okay, why did I make that decision, or what was I thinking? But trust your gut and just knowing that everything's not a win. And I think the more you understand, like everything can't be a top seller. Something's going to fall to the bottom. The easier it is to kind of navigate those ups and downs.
Wow. So what was anchoring you? I know you're a woman of faith. What was anchoring you in those times, those plot twists, when things weren't great?
Definitely faith. Like, I think that was it. Honestly, I think that and family. I think I'm very close to my family, and they definitely pour into me and motivate me to like keep going. But in those moments where it gets a little hard and you start getting anxious, it is kind of just going back to like, you're here for a reason. This too shall pass, and then you'll be on to the next.
Absolutely. So your faith in God, and also your support, your family, your support system. Wow. Now self-care, because you mentioned mental health of designers. What are some tools that you use, maybe even today, that help you with your self-care? Like it could be anything. A mindset, a mantra, a song, a devotional.
So I have a couple of things. I'll say one, I'm an advocate for therapy. I had to go seek, I've sought out their therapists, and I mean, I tell people like it's the most amazing thing ever. It's just like to have a safe space to just go talk and have people help, and somebody to help you navigate all of the thoughts. And again, that constant trying to keep up, especially in this industry, it to me created an anxiety in me. I remember being where I'm like, what is this feeling? Because I had never felt this like in my stomach and like in my gut, like just thinking, like going down this road, like I've never felt this feeling before. Like, what is this? So I was very unfamiliar with what anxiety was. And I think the more I was working within the industry, I noticed my anxiety starting to grow. And so I did seek therapy to kind of help me work through those, like, it was really just this negative self-talk and like really being able to acknowledge it and challenge it to help me navigate through that. And I think God also has a way of like taking you out of spaces to like slow you down. Because there was a point where I got laid off and I was like, oh my gosh, what's next? And like my first thing was like, I gotta find another job. I gotta get back in this. And so I remember calling one of my old bosses. She was at another brand. I was like, do you have anything? She was like, listen, take a minute, like breathe. You have a severance, be able to get unemployment, like just take a second to breathe. And I think that was like the best advice I could have gotten. Because if I would have just rushed back into it, I feel like it just would have kept going and my anxiety would have kept building. But it gave me that time to like breathe, reevaluate, ground myself, remember who I was, whose I was, and really now being back into working in design for a corporate brand, I can approach it differently and know how to navigate those kind of ups and downs.
Wow, and you had a mentor, it sounds like, or someone who at least said something that made you say, okay,
yeah,
I do need to take this.
Take a break, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but let's talk about your mentorship program that you created. So what made you want to create your foundation?
So a couple of years ago, I just know for me, being a Black woman in a very, very white industry, I didn't see many people that were like me. And again, I think acknowledging that there's like the fashion industry and then there's this like corporate sector within it. Like you have a more, I don't know, creative side of things where people, where it's not so corporate, but then definitely this corporate space. I think many Black women who are in corporate America feel the same feeling.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to be a help to young women in college who were about to step into that space because they just have no idea what they're about to encounter. And I think the more you know up front, the better you can kind of understand what's about to come your way. And so within the mentorship, we selected college students, junior and senior college students studying different facets of fashion, whether it be like in the marketing space, textiles, design, merchandising, and we would pair them with other women of color in the industry.
Wow.
So we had people who worked with Nike or Athleta, just a number of different brands. And so we paired them up as mentors. So we did one-on-one sessions, and then we would do a group session every other week. And we would kind of talk about microaggressions and what to expect when you kind of go into these corporate spaces, how to build a resume, what to expect when interviewing, how to really use your individuality, your youthfulness as a plus and a power when you go into these interviews, and don't shy away from that. And then we would also have them do a project at the that was due at the end of the mentorship, where they could use it as a portfolio piece as they started to go into the workforce.
Wow. What a gem that you are to us and to, I'm sure, your mentees. And I guess lastly, before we end, what's one thing that you would share with someone who is maybe just starting, or maybe someone who's kind of further along? What would you say to them right now with how the industry is?
I would say just stay grounded, and don't let. There will inevitably there will be a constant like keep up, and you have to, like, that's just a part of the job.
Right.
But I think in order to do that, you have to be in the right headspace. You have to know who you are. I know for me, there were points where I felt like my career was becoming me.
Oh, like your identity.
Exactly, and I had to do a whole like, who am I besides a designer?
Yeah.
All these things, and let me lean into those also, and not just become Danielle the designer. And so I think the more you can stay grounded and understand this is your job.
Right.
You are not your career.
Right.
The better you can go into the workspace and do that when you need to, but then you know how to step away and just be human.
Yeah, just be human. Danielle, thank you so much
for your
wisdom.
Thank you.
This was so fun.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, guys, thank y'all for tuning in. How can we follow you, Danielle?
You can follow me on Instagram at DWFashion. Or Extended Convos on YouTube is my podcast. That is up right now. Season 1 is out.
Yeah, and it's really good, y'all. I love it. The influencers, you have all types of people from the industry.
Yeah, influencers, community builders, people who've worked in marketing, founders. They really have some really great gems on how to kind of navigate this industry.
Yeah. Well, check it out, y'all. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Power of Care podcast. If you'd like to hear more, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Power of Care Podcast. And be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at Power of Care _.